Smythe, who is not feeling well tonight, Councilmember Howe, who's out of town. Entertain a motion that we officially begin.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Appreciate that. We'll start with a moment of silence. Please join us in that, after which Councilmember Howard will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Moment of silence, please. Thank you very much.
Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
All right, our first item tonight is recognition of employees. We're going to recognize Chance Byers, Brian McLeod, and Mike Payne for a special delivery last December. Would invite Chief West and Chief Story to come and introduce this and talk about this for a minute. Chiefs.
Mayor, Council, thank you. We are here once again to recognize some of our guys and gals here for infant delivery that we had. We also, since the last meeting, have had another one, so we're going to add to the agenda if that's okay.
Just made that a permanent agenda item?
Yeah, we figured it was already on there. So, yeah, we want to recognize Engineer Payne, Firefighter Griffin, and Firefighter Byers for, in December of 2023, they responded on an incident with a delivery. Everything went well, and they performed and worked that incident very, very good for the citizen that called for them. Also here just a couple weeks ago in June, we had Captain Bolt, Firefighter Oscar Huerta, Firefighter Griffin, and Firefighter Daniel Hennifer responded on another one where they brought another infant into the world and helped with that situation. And we just want to recognize them. These calls, they're very special. They can go really well or really badly, and it's always nice when these guys show up and they're very professional and they know what to do, and the families are always grateful and thankful when they come to help with those situations. So if they want to come up, we will recognize them, and I'll get them their stork pin, and hopefully next month we'll have another one. We just keep adding to the population.
Come on up, guys. I got a picture, it didn't happen. So. Come stand by us, guys. Face that way. I'm right here.
Is that part of their training, Mayor?
I don't know how they practice that. Sure, they practice that, but glad they do.
Thanks, guys.
People can't get to the hospital? Is traffic that bad? Or what's happening? Just put it off, put it off? It was Christmas morning, so. Okay, well, awesome. Love our fire department, public safety people. Item 3 now is public comment, opportunity to address the mayor and council and staff that's here. Let us know what's on your mind. We online? Okay, if you're watching online, you can also make your public comment. Give you until 6:10 for that. Just write the word public comment and your comment as if you were here in chambers. You may want to address the council. Okay, we'll keep it open online until 6:10, but otherwise we'll move to, so nothing on 4. I'm going to add a item in between 4 and 5. Where's Doug? No, sorry, Steve. I want you to, yeah, well, you come up. We have 2 of our longtime awesome employees retiring. Doug, if you'll come up first, that would be great. Doug Gailey, longtime assistant city manager, has been here for 9 years, is going to retire and move out of state, and so just want to publicly thank him for all his hard work and contributions and everything that you've done. And I'll have a card for you that's been signed by the council and everybody. Gift I'll let you give your farewell speech if you'd like.
Perfect. Well, I just want to say thank you to the mayor, the council. It's been super good. I can't say enough good things about our current council and the mayor. Like, I think that South Ogden is really heading in a good direction. I told Matt probably, I don't know, maybe like 3 or 4 years ago, like, I told him, it's like, I really think we're in the glory years. And I think with our new council, I think that's continuing. And so I'm excited where South Ogden is going. Shout out to Summer. I think she's going to do a really good job and take South Ogden to some good places. So thank you for everything. Appreciate it.
Thank you for everything. Appreciate it. Invite Mr. Liebersbach up as well. Steve Liebersbach has been our financial director here for the last 21 years, Steve? 22? Over 20 years. And I have a card from the council and a little thank you as well. Give the opportunity to make any final comments if you'd like.
Well, I also would just want to extend my thanks and gratitude to not only the current mayor and council, but past ones as well, including city management, department heads, and the employees that I've worked with over the years. It's been quite a journey, not always easy, but over the years, as I've looked back, we survived in the Great Recession. We overcame the pandemic, almost double-digit inflation, and the city, because there is such good people that work here, the city came out on solid ground in all of those situations. And there will be more challenges ahead. There's no doubt about that. There always is. But there again, the employees, the management, and the governance that the city has really one main goal in mind, and that's to make South Ogden the best place and the best community in the area for the residents to live and to work. So having said that, thank you, and I appreciate the opportunity that I had here over the years. So.
Thank you, Steve. Fantastic. So thank you, too, for your service. You'll be greatly missed. Consent agenda has 3 items. The approval of our July 2nd council minutes.
So moved.
Oh, let me get through them. Just a second. Also, we're going to set a date for a public hearing, and that'll be our next meeting, August 6th at 6 p.m., to receive and consider comments on the proposed increase to South Ogden City's portion of property taxes, and also a public hearing on the fiscal year 2025 budget. And the third thing would be advice and consent for the appointment of Summer Palmer as Assistant City Manager. We invite Summer to come up, please, too. This is Summer Palmer. We've hired her to take Doug's place as Assistant City Manager. She'll also do the HR assignments, and she comes to us from Clearfield, where she was the Assistant City Manager. And so you can introduce yourself officially, if you'd like, please.
Thanks. Summer Palmer. I've actually been with Clearfield City for almost 14 years. I started there as the Human Resource Manager and moved into the Administrative Services Director position, and then have been the Assistant City Manager there for the last 6 years. My stint with Clearfield was supposed to start as 2 years of public sector work to round out 10 years of private sector work, and I found that I absolutely loved public sector, and I'm happy to share that love of public sector with South Ogden, which is part of where my family grew up, and so I'm really excited to make this move back home, essentially. So thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm excited.
And you've also been an elected official.
I have also been an elected official. You guys by far have the hardest job. I will do this a million times over what you do. So I have a lot of respect and empathy for elected officials. So thank you for your service as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Welcome.
Mayor,
Yes.
could I just
publicly want to thank Doug as well as Steve. They've been amazing to work with. They have done such great work for the community, and Steve's right. We've come through a lot as a community over his tenure here, and financially, we're in really solid ground thanks to Steve's efforts. Doug has been amazing coming in, and he's the first assistant city manager that the city has had, and he's really excelled in that role and helped kind of create a path for an assistant city manager job, and also handling all of the HR things. It's been great. Doug's the type that you can just say, there's a problem going on over here. Can you go dive in and figure it out and get it fixed? And he's done some amazing things throughout the years to help benefit many departments in our community. So thank you both, and you definitely will be missed. Now to Summer Palmer, if I might. Doug and I were considering putting together a hiring committee for the assistant city manager job, and we said, okay, given your resume or your job description, rather, who amongst our colleagues around the state has good credentials that meet the qualifications that we could invite to help us recruit the next city manager? And we both were like, Summer Palmer. Great. Doug, give her a call, see if she'd be willing to come help us hire the next assistant city manager. And it's my understanding the conversation went something like this. Hey, Summer, it's Doug. First question, you're not interested in my job, right? And she said, actually, I might be. And then the conversation ended, because Doug's like, okay, we can't talk anymore then. Feel free to apply. But Summer comes highly credentialed with lots of incredible experience. She absolutely checks every box in the job description for the assistant city manager and HR director, and she's highly respected amongst the city manager colleagues throughout the state of Utah. So we both looked at each other like, are you serious? Like, why would she want to come here? But she did, and we fooled her, and she's here. So anyway, Summer, welcome. We're excited to have you join the team. Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, basically what you're saying is it'll be easy to forget Doug. Thanks. All right.
I did not say that.
I know. I like to put words in people's mouths. With that, then entertain a motion, we approve the consent agenda.
So move.
Second.
Okay, motion and second before we vote. Councilmember Stewart.
There just were a couple of items that I mentioned to Lisa, and she will make the corrections.
On the minutes.
On the minutes,
Okay,
yes.
awesome, thank you. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right, item 6. There are no online public comments. So, item 6, public hearings for the following items. Probably do one at a time, huh? Okay. Then entertain a motion that we open a public hearing to receive and consider comments on the proposed vacation of portions of Chimes View Circle.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Dixon, if you will talk to this before we invite any public up for this public hearing.
Absolutely. Again, I'm going to miss Doug. He helps me when I can't figure out how to make my computer work. So I'm hoping to bring up the aerial picture on this. And this is the Chimes View, right? Okay. Going back many years ago, Young Automotive Group, obviously moved into our city with the new Subaru, where the current Subaru store is. Going back those many years, we had always talked about the potential for future expansion and growth in that area. And they've definitely done that with the expansion of taking over the Big 5 store on the corner, and then some of the other buildings and the warehouse that they've converted into a beautiful Mazda dealership. As they are continuing to be in a growth cycle, they were looking for additional space for their Subaru store and looked to go north on Riverdale Road from where they are now. I think the project in total included over 21 separate parcels that needed to be purchased and assembled, and lots of demolition and work that has had to go into that. As a part of those conversations, recognizing what they were trying to accomplish, we looked at the city-owned Chimes View Circle that runs from Chimes View Drive and then goes north and then turns and connects into Riverdale Road. The question was, well, what do we do with this as a city? Is there a need? So our working in good faith with the Young Automotive Group, we were, basically we took a look at Chimes View Circle. There were no city-owned utilities that would be a problem in Chimes View Circle, and so basically our communication to the Young Automotive Group is, hey, if you're able to move this project forward and acquire the properties on both sides of Chimes View Circle, there would be really no reason for us as a city to continue to have to own and maintain Chimes View Circle. Oh, okay, sorry. They changed something on my computer because I've been able to do this before, just so you. Okay, it's not it.
IT in the budget.
So, what's in your packet, and I hopefully Lisa can pull it up for the general public to see. Oh, here she goes, okay. So, so the part that's in gray, so this is this is Chimes View Drive at the bottom, and then you can see Riverdale Road there at the top. Young Automotive Group has been able to acquire all but just a couple of properties. There's one property on the north, I guess that'd be, well, it's south of Chimes View. This parcel here, Mr. Bigler's Insurance, and there's a parcel right here, Mr. Malin's, who said, we're fine, we want to stay, and certainly that's their prerogative to do so. So these properties and these properties have been acquired by the Young Automotive Group, and that's why what's being recommended is that the portion of Chimes View Circle between those properties become vacated. That does mean that this will remain a public access, as well as the north part there, which allows both Mr. Malin and Mr. Bigler access, and the same access that they've had for many years. That's what's before you. It did go before the Planning Commission, and that's what's being recommended. Happy to answer questions, if any.
All right, anybody from the public that would like to speak to the vacation of the portion of Chimes View Circle, come address the council now. Anybody online, just write the words "public hearing" and your comments as well. Okay. Seeing none, we'll go to item B. Entertain a motion to open a public hearing to receive. Just to open one, okay. Now we'll listen to proposed vacation of the alley between Porter and Jefferson, access from 37th Street. Mr. Dixon.
Thank you, Mayor. So South Ogden, as well as Ogden City, older city, years ago there was a lot of these alleyways, as you're aware, that run on the backs of individuals' properties. Over the years, South Ogden has at times vacated these alleyways. This time around, I believe this was at the request of a property owner who came forward to the city and said, hey, what about this section on between 36th and 37th, between Porter and Jefferson, if I recall. So this gray part that you're seeing, that is the portion that has, that is currently still a public right-of-way. The north of that was vacated years ago. And I think probably at the time it was because not all the property owners maybe agreed. I think that used to be the case, as the city would require that all property owners are in agreement before that's vacated. So this time around, I understand the individuals who are petitioning to have this vacated have contacted or attempted to contact all of the property owners. It's my understanding that one of the property owners has not responded despite multiple efforts. Lisa, do you have the picture? Do you want to show that? And that's this property, I believe right here, number 26. You'll see the property right here. And just as a reminder, the city, we have the ability to sell property, real property, but we vacate right away. So when you vacate, essentially, you're just saying, we have no more interest in this, and you walk away. And by law, that the property then reverts 50% to this neighbor and 50% to this neighbor, is how vacations work. So the one property owner that has not responded, they may or may not be here tonight, I don't know. But it's my understanding that this first property owner that has the home and then this detached garage is the only property owner, Lisa, I believe, that has not actually responded. In looking at this and doing some more research as staff, in talking to our legal, if we were to vacate this and make that final decision, it does somewhat impact access to that garage door, whether or not the garage is currently being used or not. It would essentially only allow, what did we decide, Lisa, about 5 feet of access instead of
It would,
10, or 10 feet?
it'd be 11 because it's like 1 foot off the
Okay,
alley.
okay. So as we were preparing for tonight's meeting, recognizing this is the public hearing, so it's the opportunity just to hear any comments that might come from the public. In visiting with legal counsel earlier, it's their recommendation that we make additional attempts to contact this property owner, just to be sure that they are aware of how this might impact them and what we need to do there. And Lisa, give you an opportunity if you have anything to add.
There's also, so we also contacted all the utility companies, and we received a reply from Lumen, who does business as CenturyLink. So there is a telephone line that goes through there, and they requested that we create an easement. The attorney also suggested that we create an easement before we vacate the alley, and then vacate it.
So Mayor, with that, our recommendation is move forward with the public hearing, be able to allow any public comment. Between now and potentially our next meeting, we will firm up the utility easement, if that's able to come together before our next meeting, as well as be sure that legal has signed off on, okay, they don't see any challenges or problems with the city vacating this property. So that would be our recommendation, that the public hearing happen tonight, but then that this be tabled for a future meeting for a final decision.
Thank you. Anybody from the public that would like to speak to the mayor and council on proposed vacation of this alleyway? Okay. Seeing none, we'll go to items C and D. City's intent to continue not charging itself for water, sewer, and storm drain use for normal city operations during fiscal year 2025, and proposed utility franchise fee transfers from the enterprise funds to the general fund. And this is Peter, our new financial advisor. Thank you, Peter. What's the actual title? Financial Director, Director of Finance?
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. These this item is, as well as the next one, are just items that we have to consider in an affirmative fashion in accordance with the state auditor's recommendations. So essentially what we're doing with item C is to affirm our intent to not charge ourselves for these services, water, sewer, storm drain usage, and other city operations. Just one consideration, you know, if we're using secondary water in a park, it's very hard to measure and know exactly what that cost would be. And this is really a net zero proposition for the city. It neither creates nor takes away any actual revenue or expense from our proceedings. I think that's really all I had to say about that one.
Thank you. And item D.
And so item D is the proposed utility franchise fee, and historically, we've charged up to the 6% fee. This past year, it was a 3% fee for franchise revenue, and that 3% fee was allocated exclusively to parks this past year. And so essentially what we're doing is asking the committee to affirm our ability to transfer between funds those proceeds from the enterprise fund to the general fund.
Yeah, thank you. Anybody like to speak to the mayor and council on item C or D? For the public hearing, please come forward. Okay. All right. We don't vote on that? We just have to hold the
Have
public
a
hearing?
public
Okay.
hearing.
I was just looking down below, I didn't see that. Okay. Thank you. Very good. Any public comment online? Thank you. All right, let's go to our discussion action items. First item, make consideration ordinance 24-06, vacating a portion of Chimes View Circle. Oh, motion to close the public hearings, thank you. No, we're good.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Ordinance 24-06, vacating a portion of Chimes View Circle. Mr. Dixon, anything to add on that?
No, just happy to answer any questions.
Questions on that?
I have one.
Yes.
Does the city have any plans for that property that we're going to vacate on Chines View? Or is it, we don't have any future plans for that parcel of ground?
No, no plans. So upon vacation, it will revert to the Young Automotive Group, who owns the properties on both sides. The two portions that are still public on the north and then on the south, that will continue to be public. We're in discussions with the Young Automotive Group. They intend to plow and maintain those sections because it's access to their facility. Although that it will be publicly owned, they've agreed to say, hey, we'll maintain it because, of course, they want to keep it maintained and looking nice and have access. So.
Do we have to have a written comment about that they would maintain that portion?
Yeah, we
That's
would
not
work
good.
on an agreement with them on that.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. Any other question? All right, with that, entertain a motion that we approve ordinance 24-06.
So moved. Second.
This is a roll call vote. Councilmember Howard?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Stewart?
Yes.
Thank you. Item B, consideration of ordinance 24-07, vacating a portion of alley between Porter and Jefferson, access from 37th Street. It's your recommendation, Mr. Dixon, we table that until we get the
Yes, that would be the
utilities
recommendation.
sorted out?
Yep, just making sure that we're comfortable moving
Is
forward.
it best to entertain a motion to table it then? Entertain a motion that we table ordinance 24-07. Yes, please.
My question just is about the right-of-way. Does that right-of-way already run down the rest of the alleyway that's been vacated, or is that a new?
It stops at that second property. So we already vacated the rest of the alley years ago.
Right, but what I'm wondering is the CenturyLink that wants a
Oh.
right-of-way, is that already an easement, excuse
Oh,
me,
yeah.
I used the wrong word.
Okay,
An easement, is that already existing from there to the north?
if it is, it's not showing on the plat,
Okay,
so I don't know.
okay.
I had a question too, the house with the garage. They haven't responded at all, or they've responded that they don't want it to happen?
I don't think they've responded at all.
Okay.
Correct. And the attorney suggested that we write in detail what is going to happen. You know, that they may not have access, and try to contact them a different way than we have previously.
All right, thank you.
Mayor, could
Yeah.
we send a registered mail with that information to them? And that would show that we've made an attempt to contact them if it's a registered mail.
Lisa?
The answer is no, because the only address we have is a P.O. box.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Entertain a motion then that we table ordinance 24-07.
So move.
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Councilmember Stewart, roll call vote.
Yes.
Councilmember Howard,
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens.
Yes.
Thank you. Our first discussion item is a review discussion of our housing preservation, housing loss mitigation funds report. Mr. Dixon.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. As you're aware, 'tis the season for moderate income housing reports, and so staff's been spending some time reviewing our moderate income housing strategies and taking a look at efforts that the city's made over the last measurement period on our moderate income housing plan and our strategies for the public's benefit. A couple of years ago, the state of Utah, in an effort to find a way to generate more affordable housing. Obviously, housing affordability is a huge discussion and challenge for the state, given the growth we're having. The state has come up with a list of 26 plus, perhaps, strategies, and cities are required to select a certain number of those strategies and demonstrate progress in accomplishing the strategies they select. And if we're not deemed to be meeting the strategies in a satisfactory way, then the state will withhold our ability to get certain transportation funding dollars. And yes, it is a little big brother. It's especially hard, if I may, for communities like South Ogden that is not opposed to multifamily, and we're not opposed to providing a variety of housing options for our residents. And so it is hard when you already, as a city, are doing a lot, and yet you're still mandated by the state to do certain things. I'll get off my soapbox there to just mention, in our strategic plan, South Ogden City has selected 5 of the state strategies. This discussion tonight is specific to what's in our strategic plan is strategy 6.2, but it's also the state's menu item K. It's the state strategy K, and it has to do with, I'll just read it: preserve existing and new moderate income housing and subsidize units by utilizing a landlord incentive program, providing for deed restricted units through a grant program, or, notwithstanding a certain section of state code, establishing a housing loss mitigation fund. Well, I hope I'm not the only one that when I read that initially, and as we talked about it as a city, it was Greek. It's like, what does this mean? Not sure what any of this is. We were able the end of last, well, I guess it would have been last fall, we had a law student at the University of Wyoming who has some local connections, who needed I don't know if it was considered a senior project or just a project. And so I was contacted by a land use attorney in the state and locally who said, hey, he sent out an email to a bunch of city managers and just said, if you're interested, this law student needs. So I cut him loose on this and said, well, if he wants to review this state strategy and create some information for us, generate a report that would help us better understand maybe what all of this means for South Ogden. I have that report. It's 26 pages plus. I'm happy to email this out to the council. What I've provided for you tonight, thanks to my friend ChatGPT, or whatever that, is I do have a summary, and I read the full report again today, as well as ChatGPT's summary of the report, and want to just cover a couple of things. At the end of the day, what this means for you as a council is if you believe we as a city ought to explore any one of these types of ideas. That's what we're looking for, to say, hey, I'm interested in this. Let's do a little more work in that area. I'm hoping, whether it's tonight or in another meeting with the council, would be to make progress would mean we take a look at this information and we decide, great, maybe there are some policies we could put in place, maybe there's some ordinances that we could put in place to help advance some of these items. So with that, there's really just three items or three sections to this report, and he does a really good job. You'll be able to read the whole report in talking about the legal issues, the Fifth Amendment, 14th Amendment, Constitution issues that come into play with housing, as well as the Fair Housing Act of 1968, and that's all well and good, but really if you boil it down to what does this mean for us, one of the options based on the state is what's called a landlord incentive program. A landlord incentive program is designed to expand availability of affordable housing. And it's voluntary, so it is something that landlords would have to be willing to participate in. And these are the types of incentives that the research came up with. Common incentives include tax credits, direct subsidies and grants. Other benefits that he found in his research was there are communities that provide damage coverage for a landlord in case damages to their property exceed the deposit, that they kind of reinsure that and back that up to say, hey, look, if this will help you keep it as an affordable housing unit defined at 80% of the area median income, that's determined to be quote-unquote affordable, and no more than 30% of their income can be spent on housing. That's what that means. And so damages exceeding security deposit, assistance during tenant vacating periods, vacancy periods, I should say, and reduced bureaucracy for rental approvals. Those are some of the ideas around a landlord incentive program. It's really, what are the carrots that we are willing to provide to try and incentivize a landlord to rent or lease at that affordable rate. I'm going to keep going unless there's questions or comment. The next section then, so that's landlord incentive programs. The next section is deed restricted programs, and this is really looking at the long-term, preserving the long-term affordability of housing, right? And you may recall one of our I think it was probably our most recent apartment project that was approved up on Harrison Boulevard. With that, we did require, as a part of the development agreement with the developer, that a certain number of those units be restricted to be rented only to qualifying families that meet that income qualification. It wasn't a lot of units. It was the first time we as a city required that of a developer. Quite frankly, I think if we would have been more aware of that type of tool, we probably would have had that included in many of the other housing projects that we've had. Unfortunately, we didn't know what we didn't know, and when we learned that we could do that, we were able to apply it. And unfortunately, we haven't had, or fortunately, depending on your opinion on multifamily housing, we haven't had another opportunity where that can be a part of our conversation with the developer. That may be one area, as I've reviewed all of this, that may be worth some additional exploration on. Maybe we set up some actual policies around deed restricted units within developments. We've done it, but we didn't do it based on any formalized policy. It was just, hey, what do you think, developer? Would you be willing? And we worked that out. Councilmember Stewart.
How many units did you say in that one?
There was only 4 or 6. Yeah, it was a relatively small number. I think total units up there was 116. roughly. So, granted, really small percentage, but 4 units nonetheless. Okay. So, some of the deed restrictions that the research paper came up with talked about programs that actually limit the future sale price, rental rates, and use of housing units. Even limiting like the percentage, maybe that's the next group. Even putting limits, yeah, this is this same group. Limitations on the appreciation rate of the property value and on the types of allowable improvements. So these can become pretty restrictive, but again, a lot of times they're, not a lot of times, if I'm on the developer's side of this negotiation, it's like, okay, if you want me to do this for housing affordability, what do I get in return? Oftentimes, cities allow density bonuses and other maybe expedited approval processes and other things to try and encourage them to want to participate in doing these things. So, again, it's, I think, maybe less applicable for us, meaning the density bonus idea, because we don't control for density in our form-based codes areas. Density is a controlled function based on building heights, parking. Lisa may be wanting to correct me on something. I welcome that.
Not correct.
Add?
But we can add density by allowing another floor.
Right, okay.
So,
Yeah.
and I think that's what we did up on Harrison.
That is true. We
That was
have
the
done that
Quid
before.
pro quo was give us 4 units and we'll give you
Yeah,
another.
okay, good point, good point. So again, that would be the deed restricted type of policies and discussions. If that feels like something you as a council want to explore more of, then that could be an area we could go get more specific and formalize, okay, here's what we are willing to do. Maybe it's deciding in advance versus the way we've been doing it. The developer comes forward and says, I want to do a 3-story walk-up. And we say, well, how about doing a 4-story podium or something if we can get, a better product. So that's the deed restricted units. The last section is the housing loss mitigation funds. And it's my understanding, reading the research on this that was put together, really the housing funds that we have set aside already, generated through our community reinvestment areas, our redevelopment areas. Remember, a portion of some of those has to be set aside and used for housing. In talking to Peter and Steve this morning, we have we have about $214,000 plus in that fund for housing as a pretty good little nest egg to figure out, great, what can we do with that? And I think those funds are the types of funds that qualify to be used in this housing loss mitigation fund. Really, these are designed to, it's really loss mitigation, right? It's trying to preserve, not losing affordable housing, but retaining affordable housing, as well as for new projects. A couple of ideas around this. Well, let me finish up reading about this. So the purpose for these housing loss mitigation funds, it would be more around a financial assistance to developers, landlords, or directly to tenants to mitigate the effects of market fluctuations, economic downturns, personal financial crises on housing stability. Funding sources for a housing mitigation fund, like I mentioned, we already have some source of funding for that. New tax revenues or reallocated funds support these initiatives. And so our city center, CRA, will be now for many years generating a small amount of money each year, the set aside, that will continue. So we do have a system in place through that project area where there will be ongoing funding coming into that over time. The question will be, well, how much is that, and is it enough that we can actually do something to move the needle? There are discussions around the possibility of even working with some of our neighboring jurisdictions to pool some of those housing funds, where as a smaller entity, we don't generate enough to maybe really do anything substantial, to make a difference, to move the needle. But perhaps if we were allowed by the state to consolidate our funds with Washington Terraces and Riverdale's, that maybe then that pooled amount could then be used to say, okay, now we have enough, which community do we want to put this project in, or how do we want to use those funds? So I think there's some work that can be done in this area, if that is something you as a council feel like, is something worth exploring, to see how we can use those funds. Again, we already have a pretty good start there with about $215,000. Additionally, we've got the parcel on 40th and Evelyn. If the direction is to sell that property for fair market value, those funds could be rolled into this as well. And not knowing what that might sell for, if you just said, well, what if it's $100,000? I don't know if it'll be that much, but now we're talking $315,000. We're starting to get to a number where I think we really could have some options to help with this strategy. Mayor, I've rambled on probably more than anyone cared to hear about housing, but this is a very well-done report. Did I give credit to Benjamin Wall, who was a University of Wyoming law student? I tried to track him, we tried to get him to come present like in January. And his schedule was, he called in sick, had some things. Well, I think he's since graduated from the University of Wyoming. So the last thing he wants to do is come to South Ogden and present. He's got the credit. But he did a very good job. And there's some useful information in here that I'll email this out to you as a council. And I don't know that there needs to be any decisions tonight. I just wanted to present it, get it in front of you. I would anticipate having another, maybe a work session, where we could discuss more about these different options and have the council weigh in on what direction you want to go. Happy to take direction tonight, though, if any of you want to have that discussion and say, hey, I think we should do this or do that. But I recognize I'm just now presenting it for the first time, and you may not be prepared to give any direction at this point.
Any questions or comments for Mr. Bixler?
I think it's a good program to look into. There is one here that says state resources to support housing stability. What resources would we have that would be available to us?
So I'll actually email this out as well. The Utah League put together, I may have it here. It's a big spreadsheet that shows with all the state legislation that's happened over the last few years, there's all kinds of, and all the funding that has been made available to help communities with housing. There's several different funding sources and different programs. So the league put together a big spreadsheet that summarized several of those. Not all of them apply to South Ogden, because a lot of them are around transit areas, cities that have transit and some of those things. But there are some that, as I listened to the last training on it, that I circled like, okay, this could be. A lot of that, Councilmember Stevens. I was going to say Councilmember Doug. It's like, no, Councilmember Stevens. A lot of that funding, that some of the newer stuff that the state's put together, has to do with helping developers access funding, like get better rates on their bonds for infrastructure and other things. Again, we'll have to pick through it to figure out what works for us as a city that's already built out. Many cities are like, hey, we've got potentially 300 lots that could be developed, but we just don't have the infrastructure or the ability to fund the infrastructure it will take to bring them water and get them sewer. Some of the state funding now has provided a way for the developer essentially to get government rates on their lending so that, to help them be able to go out and build that infrastructure, and there's a bunch of others, but I'll send that out to you as well.
Thank you.
I wonder, Mayor, if we ought to couple this with our strategic plan that we did, that we worked up, to see if this program can help us in some of those areas along those lines there.
Yeah, we'll definitely do that at one of our work sessions.
Mayor, could I share one more quick
Budget's
thing?
over. Sure.
If I can find it here quick. I thought I brought it up. As a part of preparing this report, we're still finalizing it for our moderate income housing. It's due August 1. Darn it, where'd I put it? Anyway, Lisa put together a list of all of the developments. This is about a different strategy. It's not the strategy that we've reviewed tonight. But Lisa put together a list of all of the multifamily developments that have been permitted in South Ogden since the formation of our form-based code, which would have been probably, what, 2017? 16? Okay. And so we've done a spreadsheet that shows how many units, what the makeup is, townhomes versus apartments, and then we've been reaching out to each of those to say, we've calculated what affordability means in South Ogden based on 80% AMI and the 30% use for housing. Now we've asked each of those developments to tell us how many of your units rent for this amount or less. Like how many are affordable by the state's definition. And we're starting to gather that data. We've got a lot of them in. Most of the bigger ones are in. Some of the smaller, like a fourplex here or 6 townhome units there, they haven't responded yet. But for the most part, at this point, 78% of the units, now keep in mind, they're also telling us the makeup of those units. There might be 1 3-bedroom. The rest are 1-bedroom and 2-bedroom units. So they are obviously smaller because of the price point. But 78% of the total units meet that qualification of affordability, which was surprisingly high for me personally. I had no idea that it would be that high. I've got it on a spreadsheet. I'm happy to send that out as we get it finalized, but I think it'll be good for our state reporting to show, hey, since our form-based code, here's how many units have come in total, which I want to say there's a lot of apartments and townhomes. And then a breakdown of here's how many meet the affordability. I was pleasantly surprised. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. All right, item B on discussion items, intersection of Madison Avenue and 40th Street. Mr. Dixon.
Lisa, could you pull up maybe Google Earth or GeoGizmo? This discussion item comes from, the city was notified a couple of months ago by the Weber School District that they're wanting to get away from busing students north of 40th to 36th and east of Washington Boulevard. Originally, they were saying they're doing away with busing services, and this is going to start this next school year in a month, right? So we were obviously panicked and trying to figure out what this means. At our meeting last week, the school district has said, we recognize this is a big change. We're going to go ahead and bus one more year. That will give the city time to work with the school on the safe routes plan. It will give the school time to work with the parents and families to say, hey, remember, next year, things are going to change. So we have contracted with a traffic engineer to look at helping the school district and the city come up with the safe routes plan. Right now, the way it looks, most of the neighborhoods, not most, I think all, the plan would be to bring all of the walkers to Madison and then generate or create a safe crossing, as safe as possible at Madison. There will be a crossing guard. The discussion this last week by the traffic engineer was most likely he felt comfortable that it would warrant a Hawks signal or beacon. It's not a signal. I learned there's a difference between a beacon and a signal. A Hawks beacon, which is down here on 37th in Washington. You've seen them where it really, big lights and it stops traffic and pedestrians can get across. That seemed to be the direction that this was going, and I brought up a point that when we widened 40th years ago, there was a lot of discussion by the council at the time about putting potentially a traffic light at Madison. So I told the committee, like, look, maybe the city council needs to take a look at this, because if they would rather see a traffic light go there, and there's pros and cons to that. Yeah, thank you, Lisa. There's pros and cons to that. Obviously, it's a bigger expense. But the concern was, well, let's move ahead and put a Hawks beacon there at the tune of about 140 grand, 150 grand. And then in a few years, if the city council were to say, hey, I think it's time to put a traffic light there, that wouldn't be wise. Right now, recall that it's a one-way, because of the angle of the road, and without a traffic light there. With a traffic light, that could resume to be a two-way street again, because you'd have, signaled crossings and changes. So, Mayor, that's what I wanted to bring to the council, make you aware, one, of an update on the school district and the safe routes. We've got some time now. Thank you, school district, for deciding to bus one more year to give us time to work through this. But this is a decision that I think the council needs to make to help the committee know, are we planning to put a traffic light there, or are you comfortable leaving it as a one-way there and just adding a Hawks beacon system to address the safe crossing for school?
Councilmember Stewart.
So I am just thinking about that corner. Do we have space or spot there that we could actually put in a traffic light? And let me preface that with,
Yeah.
the reason I say that is because I know there's a water thing on the one corner, John's water thing.
That's the official title.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And then, yep, on that corner. And then this other corner to the south, thank you, yes, there's a retaining wall and sidewalk, exceptionally tight. The other two corners are not as much an issue, I don't think, but those two, I think, are gonna pose some.
Do we have estimates on what a traffic light installation would be?
Yeah, double, probably 250 to 300.
300,000. I
I did bring up, according to Joe Perrins, the traffic engineer that's consulting on this, his opinion's like, well, whether you put the beacon in or a traffic light, you've got the same impacts, the same infrastructure needs. So, but you're right, Councilmember Stewart, those costs don't anticipate that we would have to acquire property, right? That we could make it work within. He's less concerned about the beacon, because with the beacon, you would leave this island, and it would make it really easy, because you've got plenty of room. If that's going to forever be a one-way, and you're going to keep that island there, then the beacon is a more simple design. Whereas if you're going to reopen this and put the traffic light in now, you don't have that space to use and take advantage of. Again, not a decision that needs to be made
Right.
tonight. We have time as a committee and as a council, but I want to at least get this in front of you and know that the committee will eventually be looking to you to say, is it a traffic light or is it a beacon? What's your hopes? Let me just add, additionally, this whole process will be looking at the neighborhoods that are affected by the change from the school district, and looking at what streets are we going to encourage the kids to walk to. There will be some recommendations on sidewalk additions or striping, certain areas, just to make it as safe as possible for the children. So there will be some projects that would be recommended just for future safety for the pedestrians, students. Thank you, Mayor.
This is a little bit out, but would a traffic light there spur development of the old gas station property?
Well, commercial developers love traffic lights
Yeah.
because it does stop traffic right there.
Because that'd be worth every penny we spent to get
There
rid of
is
that
some
gas
development
station.
being proposed on that corner, but
No, I'd like a light there to return it back to not a one-way and easier for everybody to cross and slow everybody down. One more section, but yeah, I'm all in favor of a light.
maybe what staff can do between now and maybe when we could put this back on a future work session is actually get some better costs on the beacon versus the traffic light and maybe do some exploration
Yeah,
on,
and where would we put it?
can
and what
can
would
we
that
really
do?
fit a traffic light
Yeah.
at this intersection, or do we need to acquire property, so.
Mayor, I have two questions. One, would we have to do a traffic survey there or a study? The other question is, are there like safe routes for kids funding that we could tap into to, and help us out with the financial aspects of it, in that aspect there?
Yes and yes.
Okay.
The traffic engineer that's working on this, that's what he's hired to do, is do the traffic study and the analysis. Our police department has it's called a JAMR, where they put it out on, it has to be just a 2-lane road. They couldn't do it on 40th, but all these neighborhoods back in here, they've had that out, and it collects data on how many trips a day, what speeds they're going, what time of day. That's all been provided to the engineer that's helping us. And so, yes, he's going to put together that analysis. Then your second question was funding. Yeah, we would anticipate, the challenge with safe routes is they're usually out, like right now, well, the next applications period would be, okay, this is funding for 2027 or 2028. They're usually planning. So one of the assignments I took from the committee was to reach out to Wasatch Front Regional Council and see what the ability is. Sometimes they're able to move projects around depending on if this city is funded, but they're not quite ready, right? They've done some stuff in the past. I'm not sure if they have that ability with Safe Routes funds, but they have done that with other funded projects, like state-funded or federal projects, so. Hope that helps. We're going to try to find some funding to help us. The school district has also offered to contribute a small amount because they're not in the business of doing that, rightfully so, but they have offered to contribute a little bit to help. So, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. All right, item 9 here, reports direction to city manager from our council members. We'll start with Councilmember Stewart.
Thanks, nothing for me tonight.
Councilmember Howard.
The only thing I have today is my brother's birthday. They don't listen to city council. I don't think they've ever come to a city council, but it's their 52nd birthday. So wish them happy birthday.
The Howard twins, nice. Councilmember Stevens.
That's way before my time, Mike, on that. I would like to echo, and I was pleased to get my utility bill in the mail, and how we've upgraded that utility bill to give our residents more information. When I first moved here, there was no information of how much I paid last month unless I go back and check my information. But on our new bill, it actually indicates what I paid last month compared to this month. And so I think that helps out our residents in analyzing their needs and what they're using in the utility. Plus, it gives information on how to pay your utility bill. So I think there's a vast amount of information to our residents, and I applaud those who have gone through and revamped that process. Today, we had an opportunity to have groundbreaking for our new skate park. And this is going to be a opportunity to give our residents something or an activity, but also it enhances our campus here at the city building. We have the playground for the kids, the pavilion, the basketball and tennis courts, and now we're enhancing that opportunity for a skate park. Now, someone will say, well, I don't use a skate park. Maybe during Christmas you could have a skateboard, but I don't use I wouldn't use a skate park, but I have neighbors that may have the opportunity to do that. But the essence is that it is attracting and it's a gathering place for our residents here in South Ogden. I echo the words of the mayor. He says, this is long overdue, and I applaud him for spearheading this along with Matt Dixon in getting this project up and going. It will be an opportunity for our city. It shows that our city is actually growing and progressing. I'd also like to thank Steve for his service into South Ogden, and also Doug. I thought he had a great first name since we both share that, but these two individuals have contributed a great success to South Ogden. We are a better place because of their service and their knowledge in doing South Ogden. I'd like to welcome Summer. Summer's great to have you on board. In fact, Summer, in the month of July, we celebrate the pioneers, and the pioneers going out west and establish a new area and a new community. Well, this is like your pioneers. You're coming to South Ogden, and it could be an opportunity for you, and we're pleased to have you and your talents. I was asked a question this past week. He says, what big surprises have you had in your life? Well, I've probably had several big surprises, but I wrote back to them and I says, you know, surprises always come, and I'm always having surprises, but whether they're big or small, but it's up to me to use those surprises to the benefit of those that I'm associating with. So I enjoy surprises. And Mike, your brother, if he's having his birthday, I'm sure he enjoys surprises also for his birthday. Anyway, we're pleased to be here. This shows that our South Ogden is progressing. We're moving ahead. We're in a better position today in South Ogden than most communities in Weber County. And that's due to the administration that we have here, the dedicated employees, but also it has to do with the vision of not only the mayor and the city manager and the assistant city manager, but fellow council members. We only want the best for South Ogden, but it is showing that we're moving ahead and we're enjoying some of the progress that's coming our way. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Mr. Dixon.
I don't know that I have much to say other than I've already expressed my appreciation to Doug and Steve, and echo all the good that's been said about them. They will be missed. And also just give recognition to Janine and Lisa that really spearheaded the utility bill project, I believe. I hope I didn't miss out anyone. Lori may have chimed in a few things too, but really they took that project on, and I agree. It's a great improvement, and I think it'll be useful for our residents. No, that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll miss Steve and Doug. State Skate Park today was a good time, short and sweet, good because it was hot. By state law and by request of the Central Weber Sewer Improvement District, I need to, in our public meeting, make everybody aware that the Central Weber Sewer Improvement District is proposing a increase to property tax. On a $520,000 residence, it'll increase $12 per year. So those of us that aren't in a $520,000 residence, it'll be less than $12, $12.87 per year. The public hearing for that will be on August 19th at 6 p.m. at the Administration Building in Marriott Slaterville. If you want more information on the increase, citizens are directed to www.centralweber.com or to call 801-731-3011. And there's some extra data and stuff if you're interested. I just found it shocking that they collect 37.9 million gallons per day in 2023. Almost 38 million gallons per day goes through the sewer. Board with the growth, we're having to expand out there. So anyway, that public hearing will be August 19th at 6 p.m. So that's where I'll be on my birthday. So my 35th birthday, something like that. All right, appreciate everybody's attention, everybody's service. Entertain a motion that we close our meeting.
So move.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Awesome.